Welcome back to part 3 of this Ranger bed repair. Now, we have it hung on its side, that way it's a little easier this way to weld in the cross members and drill the holes and kind of lay out the underneath of this, kind of the way I need to based on how the old bed was. So this is what I did. There's a winch up on the second floor. It comes through this kind of this hatch that opens up, and then we went from there and just hung this up. And I have the rear 4 holes drilled. Now the rear cross member was still good, so I'm going to leave that. I drilled holes for the second cross member up, and the only other holes that need to be drilled are the front 2. I'm kind of giving the drill bit a break because I'm just not loving it, and it's probably not loving its life, so I'm giving it a break while I cut some of these cross members out. And I use the bandsaw to do this. I think this is just the best way to do it, and to help me do that, I kind of took some notes of my length and then the width I need to achieve. Now this is all just 2-inch square tubing, so as long as 2 1/4, I'm probably going to use the cutoff part of the one that only needs to be 1 3/8 tall. And all these numbers came off of what the old cross members looked like, and they're really not much, but it gives you something to base off of. Now with the front cross member, this is all it is. It's just kind of this bent piece, and then where there needs to be a bolt, it kind of looks like a piece of channel iron with a bolt through it, because there's the fuel tank, and if it was a solid cross member all the way through, it would interfere with the lines, and I don't want that. I want to try to keep it the same. So what I'm going to do is later on I'm going to cut all this bad rust out of whatever is left of this front cross member. I'm going to try to get all the bad rust out and then make 2 little, I guess maybe I'll just take some of the square tubing, maybe cut 2 pieces and make sort of a C shape. That'll give it what it needs, and drill the holes through them, and it'll be, I think that'll be the best solution to it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut these cross members and get them all the size and the width I need, and then we're going to snap some lines probably and throw them on. So this is what I'm calling the number 3 cross member. It's really 4 in the line, but the front one isn't really a full cross member. So anyway, I have 2-inch square tubing, but I needed 2 1/4. So what I did was just cut what I needed, and then I had this plate, so I cut one down, and I just took, this is now a 1/2 inch, so I just cut this down about 1/4 inch, so that way when you throw the 1/2 inch it adds, and you end up with 2 1/4. And this is one that I drilled my 3/4 inch hole, but the drill bit is absolute cheeks and did not drill straight when my pilot hole was more to the right, I guess, or more, that way. And but that's one. This is the other one. That one's a little better, but still kind of ass. And I snaked it a little on the weld there, but that's what one of the cross members is going to look like, because it was just a little bit of a bigger one. And this is actually going to be replacing this main one. And I checked the height because I didn't want to run a solid 2-inch across. It's going to go right in the back here. So the way it was lipped up, I was worried there was going to be something here, but it'll actually fit just fine. I might have to push these just a hair out of the way, but that's not a big deal at all. And then for my front 2, I have this one, which is a perfect 2 inches all the way across. That one's fine, no holes, just needs to be lined up and welded in. And then this is the one I cut down. Needed to be like 1 3/8 or something along those lines. And so that's what that one looks like. And I have plans later today, so I can't just crank this out. Tomorrow I'm going to be finishing the welding portion, and hopefully getting started with the paint. Now, some of you may be wondering why this is taking me so long. It's because this is very part-time. When I'm in here, I have probably like 4 other projects I do, and usually smaller ones, but there's always something else I need to do too that takes a little more priority over this. Unfortunately, I really would have liked to just take this and crank it out, but there's other stuff that's more dire in terms of it needs to be fixed, or else people can't get around, or I can't get around, or along those lines. So this is kind of slowly getting done. I really wish I can do it quicker, but we'll get back to it tomorrow. And I'll pick up the camera again. We'll run these cross members. I'll show you how I do them and how it looks. This is the start to my cross members. Now I just have them tacked in there, and I want to try to put it on the truck so I make sure everything lines up good. And I had a little blunder with my measurements. Somehow I was off on both the sheet and the cross member, but both opposite. So pretty much the sheet, I did the measurements on here, and I was like a 1/4 inch off from, so I must have been shy. Either way, it was wrong. And then on the cross member, I was like a 1/4 inch the other way, so it was like a 1/2 inch off total from each other. So it was a big mess. So I couldn't drill another hole because it was already partially overlapping. If you've ever done that before, it's really hard to drill a hole with half it's open. It's just kind of a pain in the ass. So I just took my torch, kind of opened the holes up, and then I'm gonna test fit it, mark where isn't covered on top, I guess. So whatever isn't being used by the bolt, I'm gonna mark it, and then I'm just gonna fill that, and then sand it and paint it, and everything will be flat again. But that's just my first little blunder, I guess. But all these are just tacked in here so I can test fit them, make sure everything works. The front isn't in here because all I'm gonna do is basically like a channel iron looking block, because that's all the front is. I'm gonna rip this whole middle section right out. There's no actual cross member for the front. It's just 2 little C's pretty much, because there's a gas tank and a couple other things there. If I had a full piece, it wouldn't work. So we're gonna throw this back on the engine hoist so it's flat and get the truck back under. Back with the Ranger now. I'm making the front cross member, and I can look on the Ranger, see how far apart they're supposed to be. Now what I did was, the way these go is just basically just 2 kind of knuckles here that the bolt runs through, that sits on. This just kind of for bracing for it. So what I'm going to do is take all these where they're spot welded, I'm going to drill those out, take this crap piece right out, and leave it out. And what I did here was make a front cross member, and this is the distance that it needs to be on the frame there. And what I did, because it's a little taller than the box tube was thick, I only have 2 inch, and I needed these ended up being almost 4. It's like 3 3/4 is what I cut them to. But then I had this extra piece from where I ripped down that second one that was a little thinner. So I took that and used it just for bracing, to give the sheet a little more structure. And I just put 2 little triangles on there, strengthen it up a little bit. Now this thin piece, because of it's not very thick, it is thin, so it warped a little bit when I was putting the ends on. But I think I'll be able to straighten her out, or at least when I put it on here, it might flex, it might warp the plate a little bit. However, once I'm up top, I can push it down, level it on some sort of line that the Ranger has. Like, I don't know if you can see, but there are, you'll see once I drop it down a little better, but there are some lines on the front of the bed that I can follow to where I can push this down. Now that is pretty flexible, with some weight. And just push down and put this plate so it's flat, and then we'll be good to go. Now I have finished welding all the cross members and the plate steel into the bed. However, it's fairly challenging. One, it's hard to make it look good for a couple reasons. Because this bed is very soft in a lot of locations, and also the difference in width. So pretty much this is 1/8 inch. This is just like your sheet steel, and because of that, I had to have it at a lower power, just so I didn't burn through this. So it took a little bit of trial and error to not burn through the good parts of the bed. But even then, I still burnt a little bit, and that's where you get all these clumped up spots. Besides that, you can see some runs where it was solid enough where it allowed me to really get down the bed without making too much of a mess. This side's a little better. All in all, not too bad. Next challenge is filling these holes in the front. Both sides kind of equally. This side's going to be a lot harder, just because of this angle. I don't have any sort of bender here, so I can't just take this and kind of try to mold it, I guess you can say. But these are going to be difficult, and so will this front. It's very soft across this whole thing, and it's, I mean, really, I don't know, it's hard because new bed is obviously the best way to go, but they want to salvage it, so I'm going to try to do my best. Now, this is going to look funky. This side, I might be able to just take a small piece, a smaller piece, smaller hole, and just try to lay it across here, but it is very soft in this wall, and it's very soft in this end. The only solid part will be this, and just trying to get it to hold is going to be hard. But this side's going to look a little better because it only has this one divot on this side, whereas on this side, it's a whole ordeal now, because if this sits flat across, it's going to sit with the height of this. You're going to have this big divot, this divot, and then it's going to come into hopefully here. So maybe I'll just make a square, run it across. Maybe I just have to make two little like half moon sort of deals to try to fill this with. Otherwise, this is going to be very challenging. I'm going to leave it disconnected from the front because my plan is, obviously you can see there's a gap and it's not equal all the way across. And if you look down the side, you can see it kind of bows out a little. And what I'm going to do is actually get everything done besides welding the front there, throw it on the truck. Now I can get all the same height across it, and I can push it back to where it needs to be, and then I can try to weld it. And then that'll also allow me to sit in here because it'll be more stable. I'll be able to sit in here and get up there and really fine tune this front so I can not have it look horrible is the ideal ending here. So we're gonna try to go ahead and make those I don't know, filler pieces, and we'll go from there. So even though it's rocking a little bit, this is sort of was my solution. Now, does it look good? No. I want it to, but I can't. There's no way I can make those look good, because here's the problem. So I started over here, and you see all those like really shitty looking welds? Yeah, that's because everything I tried to weld burned through, and all it was causing was little holes. Same with up here. You know, it was started just down here. It started to look good. I was just gonna go over it. You know, maybe throw like just a thicker bead, make it look acceptable, and then it just burned holes. And even at a lower power, all it does is burn holes. So then I moved on over here. This actually held without burning up really good till it got up here, and up here just holes, man. Fuck, it sucks. Anyway, let's cut out little tabs, made it, throw it in there, make it work. Now the idea is I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna put this bed on the truck, make sure all the bolts fit. Now I still gotta figure out what I want to do here. Obviously the other bed was, because of the shape and molding, it came down to sit on this. So ideally what I want to happen, so what I might do is just maybe warm up this crease and just beat it down, so it goes down an angle and hits that, and then I'll weld that across, and then this back will look fine. But first I want to put on the truck, grind down. Putting it on the truck allows me to like sit on it. I don't kind of have to worry with anything. So I can sit on it, crawl on it, take the grinder and grind everything, and then probably sand up, roughen up the whole red. That way I can paint it. What I want to do up there is fill the holes with actually just with Bondo. I'll just fill them, and then I'll paint them, and then it'll cover up all the crap and make it look a little more acceptable. The challenging part is going to be welding that back wall now, because when I go on the other side here, and you can see where I cut some of it out, this was all really shitty rusty part. Cut that out. Same with that other side. That was a little more, I think, over there. But this whole thing, right? I mean, this is above the metal. I mean, this whole thing's soft all the way across. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. I don't even know what I can do with it. Because even if I throw like let's say I cut a thin piece, maybe out of this, or if I took a piece of metal that I have, maybe over there, and just cut a thin little, half-inch strip. And even if I threw that on there, what am I going to weld it to? I can't go up to this piece. I mean, this is junk, like all the way up. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. See, but here's what I'm also thinking: the original bed didn't touch it. What kind of fastened it was the way. This is the old mount. This went down, bolt went up here, and it bolted through. Now, this was just on this piece because there was the border down there for sort of like the front cross member. This sat out. This is what I was talking about, that little knuckle. This sat out, and then all the bed did was bolt down through it. That's kind of what secured it, because all it is barely like tack welded up the sides, and then metal's folded so it sits in there. But I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I honestly thought maybe throw it on the truck, see if I can make it flat, and then clamp it together. Maybe throw a couple welds in there to see if it'll hold, and then take it off again and cut all this junk out on the bottom to make just give it a straight line. But I honestly just thought about leaving it kind of open, even though it's not really what I want to do. But if I need to throw a couple welds to keep it solid, and I don't know what else I can really do about it, because that's gonna be a nightmare, and it's gonna look like hell, and I don't want to do that to him. So I don't know. I'm kind of undecided what I want to do with that yet. But let's get it on the truck. Now here's a quick little look of what all the cross members look like underneath. I'm actually pretty impressed with how this front one turned out, and really that back one. Now you can see the bow in it. Well, maybe not with the light, but you can kind of see there's a little bow in it. But it is what it is. One thing we need to do now, I think I'm going to self-tap all these back in here. Maybe modify the length of the brace a little bit to make them all work. Especially this back here, it's a little long, and depending on how it lines up with the frame, some things are going to have to happen. But maybe just cut and weld, or maybe just bend and bend this a little bit flat so it works better. But either way, I'm fairly impressed with how that came out, and I'm happy with the underside. So this is what the detail on this rear end is going to look like. What I did was kind of just beat the corners with a hammer, and as you can see, it's kind of varying depths, even though when you look down it, it's fairly flat. Now that's because this lip was beaten and abused, and it was kind of rolled down in the middle, which not a big deal. I just had to go a little slower. Now if you don't fill gaps very often, what I did here was I made some bridges to kind of connect them, make sure that it wouldn't warp when I was welding, kind of from end to end. And what I did was I ran a line up, melted the plate, and made a good bead at the top of the plate. That way I had less to fill, and if in the middle were the big gaps, I also made one on the bottom, and then filled the bottom, or filled in between as I went. Now I kind of skipped around and took multiple takes, and where I'd weld for a few minutes, let it cool off, and then weld for a few minutes and let it cool off. That way it had minimal warping, and all in all, it looks, I think, pretty decent. It definitely looks better after you rub it with the brush, because you had a lot of paint that was a little shaky, and a lot of coloration just from the burning paint. But all in all, I think that's good, and I might hit it with the pad just to get the top edge so it isn't sharp. But I think I'm just going to leave most of the welds. I think it'll just look better than trying to grind them down smooth and have it be messed up a little bit. So I'm just gonna kind of round the top edge so it's nice and smooth, and then we'll get to filling them bolt holes. And for those who are wondering, the temperature and amps and stuff I'm using is 15 volts, and you can see it's at 65 amps. And then my wire speed is kind of preference to however fast or slow you want to go. I'm going 94 on this. And then you also may be wondering, because this is an 1/8 inch plate, why the temp is so low. And that is because of the sheet steel that is the rest of the bed. Anything hotter, it would just instantly burn through. So what I had to do is just go a little slower, actually hitting the plate, make sure I melt it into the plate and get good penetration, and then just kind of connect it down and run it on the sheet steel. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the welding portion for this Ranger. Next time we will be doing paint. Order is kind of Bondo, and then while it's hardening in both kind of fender wells, we will be doing the bed liner, and it'll really transform this bed. It'll cover up a lot. I still kind of got to figure out what I want to do in the front there, but besides that, the bed is straight, all the bolts are going to work, and we are in good shape. So thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you want to see more. There will be a lot of other projects like this down the road.